Hello, everybody. My name is August Uitzetter. I'm 37 years old at this moment, and I live in Mexico. I'm already originally from the Netherlands and immigrated to Mexico when I was around 19 years old. And I want to talk a little bit about my near-death experience that I had around 3 years ago. To go a little bit back in the past, in my childhood, there happened some things at that time that made me the person that I am today. This thing that happened was actually a boy that was a couple of classes higher than what where I was. He touched me. He sexually abused me. It was not like full blown sexual abuse, but it did impact my life in the sense that um, I always felt that I had to do the best and always excel at everything that I could in order to be noticed and in order to prove myself. That is basically, the way I felt at that time and until recently. I always boy that was having a lot of issues with being homesick. I couldn't leave my family away from them. I was always sad when I had to leave home. What happened there is, also the sense of having to prove myself made me go to Mexico eventually. 19 years old, pretty young in that sense, but I overcame that as well. However, the thing that I need to prove myself was really focused also on my work. I started working when I was very young. I started working at 11 years old back in my home country, the Netherlands. When I came to Mexico, then obviously I started working, from the lowest jobs and working my way up, stressing myself constantly, a real workaholic in that sense, which after my near death experience, not immediately, but after my near death experience, it was something that I had to let go in that sense. So, what happened to me was that 5 years ago, in 2018, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, which is a form of IBD, irritable bowel syndrome. It's a disease that affects mainly your large intestine, and you get ulcers in your large intestine, and you're not able to function well anymore. So, the disease in that sense for me was something very difficult. I was always kind of a healthy person in the sense that I was never really, sick. But when I became sick with ulcerative colitis, the first thing when I went to the specialist, the first thing that he said was, you're a very stressed out person. No, he could, and I was thinking directly, how do you know? But obviously he had the experience with many other people, having the same disease, which is often caused by stress, not always, but in my case, it definitely was. And we started trying different medications in order to get it under control. Unfortunately, that never happened. The medication did not work. Some of them actually made it worse. So then I was given, a choice in order to get another medication, which is a biological medication, which was not something I could afford uh, at that point in time, or get my large intestine removed, which is, in my case, was a permanent surgery. So my whole large intestine was removed on the 2nd of January 2020. Everything went well. Actually, I woke up feeling great. No more pain, no more problems, having to go to the bathroom a million times a day. So that is what happened. So I was recovering, and unfortunately, during the recovery period, it took about 3 days, and I started to feel pretty bad. My belly was swelling up, which was very painful because the big scar that they created, the big opening. So it was, a lot of pressure inside the belly. What happened was that I discovered that afterwards in my second surgery. they discovered that the small intestine that comes out of the belly to a stoma bag, that intestine was twisted around and did not like pass anything. So I swell up, and my belly was like 3 or 4 times its normal size. So they wheeled me to the imaging room to make some pictures of my belly and to see if there's anything wrong. So there definitely was. And on my way back to my room, when they wheeled me back, the pain became so bad. I was actually screaming, I don't want to die yet. I don't want to die yet. At that time, I was 34 years old, so you can imagine feeling pretty bad of leaving my family, leaving my wife behind. And, and at that moment, I was feeling that way. I was still being wheeled back to my room. Unfortunately, there were no devices connected to me, so they could not see if anything was wrong with my heartbeat, with my levels. But the pain became so bad that in the hallway itself, they started to work on me in order to see if, with their hands pushing my belly and trying to untwist the small intestine inside, that's where I started to go, basically. I don't think, and I've never asked the doctors, I don't think they even noticed that I went away. So what happened is that, the pain was so bad, and I really felt that I was dying. And suddenly, while they were working on me in the hallway, suddenly I popped out of my body. It was an experience that I've never had in my life. Actually, I was laying on my back and I felt that it was like plop, and it went out of my body, twisted around, and saw myself laying on the bed. I saw the heads of the doctors from the top, and it felt like I was pasted to the ceiling of the hospital hallway, where I saw the doctors working on me for several minutes. They were poking on my belly, poking with the finger inside of my stomach to see if there was any blockage in there, and it was such a negative feeling. It was very, very hard to see myself, and at the same time I had a feeling of, this is it. I'm going to die. And at that moment when I felt that, I suddenly came in a tunnel. It was a very strange feeling because I could switch between the two views at the same time. It's very difficult for me to explain that. It was not like seeing with my eyes, it was seeing with my mind, basically. I could switch between, seeing myself laying on a bed, which was very negative, very bad, and I could switch back to the tunnel. It was not very flamboyant experience in the sense that I saw heaven, things like that. But I was in a dark tunnel. It was a very, very dark tunnel. And I would say there was a shimmering light at the end of the tunnel, which was very peaceful, very inviting. In my sense, it was like 200 yards away. It was very far away. And then suddenly I felt a being standing next to me. It was not somebody, you could not see it. I actually felt that I turned around, myself and see who was standing next to me in the tunnel. But I could not see the person or see God or see the angel or whatever it might have been. That energy that was there was so peaceful. And meanwhile, I was still switching around between seeing myself on the bed, doctors working on me, and the tunnel, which was very peaceful. So I thought, okay, the tunnel is more peaceful. I'm going to die either way. So I might as well focus on the tunnel. And then I had some questions. The questions that I had for that energy, I told them, I don't want to die yet. My family has gone through many things in the past. I'm sure that they will be heartbroken by losing their son, and I felt extremely guilty towards my wife because it kind of felt that, I left her with all the things I didn't do in my life or didn't finish in my life. It was very difficult. And I told him, I don't think I'm ready for this. The energy told me very specifically, like, there's nothing to worry about, nothing at all. This is just like a natural process, after you die. And at that same time, it was just like a confirmation. in a sense that I should not be worried about death, about things that I leave behind, because it's not important whatsoever. It was only love. Love is the most important thing I felt that's being said to me in that sense. And at the moment that he said that, and the moment that I told him that, I still have to finish things in my life, I felt that I was pushed back in my body. It was literally like, I was looking at the light that was very far away, and it felt like a big hand, coming from that light through the tunnel on my chest, like a huge hand. It was like as large as my upper body. And I felt I was being literally pushed back into my body. It came from the shimmering light in the tunnel, and then it pushed me right back in my body. And I actually felt like, oh, like that. I felt my soul or whatever it is was pushed back in the body. And at that time, they were wheeling me in for a second surgery. They actually told me, okay, you're going to be having a second surgery to untwist your small intestine. That was it. They put the mask on me and put me to sleep. And I woke up about 11 hours later, because it was quite a large surgery. They had to open up my whole belly again and prepare me for the surgery. But when I woke up, I felt very strange. It felt like I was, going crazy or something. I had an experience. I didn't know what to say. I didn't really tell anybody until about 2, 3 months later. Told my family, my wife, about the situation. And I started to investigate in other near-death experiences from other people, and out-of-body experiences, which I also had. And I noticed that I'm not crazy after all. This is something that actually happens quite a lot. At the time, I didn't understand, so I recovered fairly quickly actually after the surgery. But after that, I started to ignore the teachings that I was given inside the tunnel, which was basically that the most important thing is love, and all the materialistic things that you think it's important, it's not, and neither is work, in that sense. You don't have to be a workaholic in order to have a life, and actually, it's gonna make you sick at some point. So kind of ignored all that for about, I would say, 2 years. And then suddenly I had another mystical experience where I did not have a second near death experience, but I did have a mystical experience or a spiritual experience, maybe in that sense, if you think it's God, like reminding me of what I had gone through during the near death experience. Was actually a warning. I felt it was like a warning. Was like a warning of, to not stay on the same path that I was before. Because, eventually like, it would make me sick again, which I finally understood. It was a little bit more than a year ago. And then I finally understood the message. And I started to investigate a lot, in this sense. I've been listening, obviously, to a lot of other stories of other people going through the same or similar experiences. I actually became more spiritual after that. Was not spiritual whatsoever, but this really like opened me up, opened my mind, to teachings, from different people, different philosophers, for example, doctors, understanding that stress does a lot of harm, and you can actually become a better person in the sense of a better person for yourself. Not having to do all these efforts, stressing yourself out for work or for other people necessarily. And then actually things became so much easier, knowing that first of all, you don't have to worry about. And that was something that, scared me a lot, especially as a child. Death was very something very difficult for me, especially losing family members. That I was very scared of that. But now I know, after all this happened to me, after the spiritual experience that I had afterwards, that there's really nothing that one has to worry about. Whatever comes here in the afterlife, whether it's heaven, whether it's reincarnation or things like that. Once you reach the tunnel, and once you go further, you're going back home. That's where we come from. Whether reincarnation exists or not, or whether it's just heaven and that's it, you will be back home. In that sense, I'm not afraid at all anymore. Actually, I enjoy life much more this way, understanding that there's nothing I have to worry about, and there's nothing that I have to prove to anybody. In the sense that that I have to work hard every single day, stressing about things that really, in the grand scheme of things, really don't make any difference. It doesn't mean that you don't have to do anything with your life at all, but it's just not important. The things we stress about on a daily basis. It's something that we can definitely work on as a person, whether it's spiritual, whether it's by reading books of people that have gone through the same things that I have gone through in that sense. Doctors, that talk about what damage that stress can do. It actually opens up your mind very well. That's the story that I want to tell to everybody, because at least I've gone through this, and I kind of feel that it's necessary, that it's my obligation to talk to people about this, because I'm definitely not the only person in life or in the world, that is going through something similar. Whether it's stress about work, whether it's financial stress, whether it's stress about being sick, it doesn't make any sense. The more we fight against those things, the more we fight against pain, the more we fight against diseases. Actually, the worse it will get. It's better to accept and relax. And I hope that with my story, at least, I can at least help one person. That's my goal. Maybe one person opens up their eyes before they destroy themselves. And that's basically my story. I'm very thankful if you've gone this far to hear about it. And if you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I'll be reading them time from time, and answer any of the questions that you might have. Thank you.